Welcome back to Open Door Conversations. This is episode 4 titled Is It Pathology? We're discussing the impact of family system dysfunction. I am your host, Renata.
And I'm your host, Fatima.
And so we're going to get into today's topic. Today, we hope to cover the impact of our family systems and how sometimes dysfunction can carry over into our adult lives or relationships. So, we want to talk today, I think, about behaviors, thinking patterns, core beliefs, and how or what we've developed from our family system or our upbringing. Let's get started.
I like this topic, but I think one thing that we should emphasize is that with this discussion, we want to emphasize the Black family system functions.
Yes.
The
Yes.
reason that I feel that that is so important is because we see it all the time. You see the different memes, you see the different videos, how if it were a white family versus how a Black parent would react, or a Black family not going to do this or do it that way.
Mhm,
You know,
mhm.
there is a systemic difference on how our families operate. And a lot of that, of course, is based off of culture. And just as you hit, the pathology of our families. And recognizing what is good and what is bad from it, and not being afraid to admit, "Mm, you know what? I had a good upbringing, but it wasn't a great upbringing." And no one has a great upbringing without some type of issue, some type of dysfunction. But the different type of dysfunction that we're talking about today is a dysfunction that carries over into your adult life, that it carries over into your marriage, it carries over into your upbringing of your children. And so how to recognize the good from the bad, the what's just going to be, and it doesn't have to be.
Mhm, mhm. That's good. I'm glad that you did emphasize, that as we are on, Ebony Ascent on the corner, right? And so we are not saying that we aren't talking to other people can't listen in, but we are specifically focusing on, African American families and really the health of our community. We talk about relationships. And I think one of the things we talk about, let's talk about behavior or thinking patterns or core beliefs that come out of this family, dysfunction. I remember I heard somewhere on a show one time, they said, we're students of our family system.
Mm.
And I think that statement really helped put it into perspective for me. Like who you are, how you think, how you behave, how you respond or react, right? The way that you engage, how you see relationships, how you handle conflict, right? How you work together, your view of marriage, your view of relationships, how you navigate life comes from your family school system.
Man, I think, all of that is so relevant to even understanding who we are.
Yep.
Um, you know, because everything that you just mentioned shapes us to be who we are. And if we don't begin to understand and be able to dissect once again, um, what did make me this way? Why do I get angry all the time? Is that something that I saw when I was coming up?
Yep.
Why do I feel that instead of talking to my kids, they need to get a whooping every time, instead of being able to talk to them? Or why is it that um, the old adage, kids are to be seen and not heard?
Mhm. Mhm.
That is and that is one thing that we've talked about constantly, because when you tell a child that they are to be seen and not heard, or not to talk back, or because I said so, you're limiting their growth as they go into the world, because now they're being taught not to talk back. Okay, so if someone does me wrong,
Mm,
I'm not going to say anything, because that's
mm,
what I've always been taught growing up, is I need to just take it.
mhm.
Mhm. I don't have an opinion. So I don't know how to have a conversation with someone because I don't know how to form an opinion. Or if I form an opinion, it's going to be wrong. Or it's not what they want to hear. So then that's when you get into the people pleasing of adulthood.
Right.
And then when you enter therapy
Mm-hmm.
or have a relationship with someone that helps you to see that, and you begin to change your ways, then the dynamics of your family begins to change. And ironically, it's not so much your family, let's say if you're married or in relationship, it's your family. That dynamic of the relationship begins to change because now it's who is she? Who is he?
Mm-hmm.
You don't talk to me like that. I'm your mother. I'm your father. I'm your grandmother. I'm this. I'm that. You
Mm-hmm.
still need to speak to me the way that I raised you to. And it's not being disrespectful, letting you know that I have an opinion or a thought about what is going on.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to dive into with the pathology of families.
Listen, you are not kidding. I I there's a couple that I follow, and they do a lot of, like, kind of teaching for couples work, because I work with couples. And one of the things and I'll be honest with you, I think for them, they are coming from the medical model of pathology, right?
Mm,
But they use the phrase like, "Oh, everything is not about, like, pathology." And it's almost like this, like, quit looking at pathology. But le let's take it here spiritual for a second. We talk about generational curses
mm,
or things that are passed down. Insert the word pathology, right? If nobody changes anything and no one shifts how they behave and how they engage, guess what's going to happen? You'll have generations of kids
mm.
behaving and acting, or to the points you made very clear, like, which is, I'm in relationship and I'm allowing mistreatment where my voice is silenced because of what I learned way back here. If nobody ever changes or shifts anything. And I guess my maybe question is, who do you want to be as a parent now that you got kids? It's never too late. Anybody can change your shift, but who do you want to be? And I remember me and my mom having this conversation, or very similar conversation around, like, parenting. And she's like, "Well," and I was like, "Nah, mom, I'm not doing that," like, and she sees even before I had kids and I was just the pank, the professional aunt and no kids, right? I would be like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you saying that?" And my family, they'll probably listen to this and be like, "I know she's not telling our business." I'm not. It's okay. But the reality is, right, we've had that conversation and we've talked about how detrimental the things that are passed on that impact people and how they show up in the world. What they
Absolutely.
think about themselves, what they think about other people, what they think about the world around them is based a lot of times on what came out of their family system.
Mm,
Pathology, because it's been the same, passed down
yeah.
from generation to generation.
That's deep. And it's funny that you say that, that your family probably gonna listen to me like she's telling her business. And that's not the thing, but because we come from a place of knowing,
Yeah.
and
Right.
that's what it is, we're not gonna give details, we're not gonna give names, but of course, unfortunately, but fortunately, if I say my husband or you say your husband, well, then I mean that's is what it is. But you know, um, the reality of that is just that, the reality of that. You know, um, my mom would always tell us, you know, uh, say my daughter and my nieces or one of them or my nephew said something, it would be, oh, the way y'all are raising these kids these days. Why? Because they had an opinion, because they voiced how they were feeling. The way that I look at it is, number one, they're not on drugs. None
Mhm.
of them have never been to jail. They didn't have kids before they were of age.
Mhm.
They didn't drop out of school.
Yes.
So you look, you take a step back, like, well, okay, help me understand what we did wrong then.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Oh, because it's not the old school way of raising kids to where you have an opinion when I give you one.
Mhm.
So that goes back to your point of their voices being silent. And so with that understanding, um, and I'll say this real quick too, and I'm sure that you get it just as much as I get it, that I think this way and I feel this way, oh, because I'm in counseling, because I'm a therapist.
Mm.
No, this is something, as you stated, I decided years ago I was going to change the dynamics of how
Mhm.
I raised my kid,
Mhm. Mhm.
because it's always been to the point to that point is everybody has a voice and everybody needs to be heard. You know, I'm told that I'm quiet. No, I speak when I have something to say. I
Mhm.
speak when it's important,
Yeah.
not just to be rambling just to be rambling. You know, so and I think that that's important to understand. Like, of course, we have just conversations like, "Girl, what we even talk?"
Right.
But it's getting to an understanding of the importance of that conversation. But I had to understand the importance of my voice. I had to understand the
Mhm.
importance of who I was
Right.
to get to that point to be able to do that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so in this conversation that we're having today, how do we even in this moment of time that we have get
Mhm.
others in the process of looking at the pathology of their family systems and how it plays out now in their life, their relationships, so on and so forth?
Yeah. That's a good question. As you were talking, I think one of the things that came to mind was the statement, when you know better, you do better.
Mm,
Here's one: when you see better, you want better, and therefore you do better. And I remember, me and my mom, we have a great relationship now. We struggled a little bit when we were younger, but we're all good. And we frequently have conversations about like the past and how we overcome things. And I, share with my mom, like, it's for me, it's when I left home and, kind of like my Moses Joseph experience, and I went out and went into the military, and I started to see people who had kids. I was young, like what, 19 when I went in or whatever. And I was like, wait a minute, people treat their kids like this? like, like kids can have a voice, like they're talking, like there's connection. Here's one: secure attachment. That's
mm,
a clinical therapist term, but that just means connection. The
mm,
families are connected. Mom talking to the kids, dad talking to the kids, they're connected. They get to say how they feel about something. The parents are making a decision, but the kids can respectfully say, like, oh, I don't really agree with that, or I don't think that way, or I think about it like this. And I'm like, that's a thing people can do. So to answer that question, when you see something different, it exposes you to something that you like, whoa, like I didn't even realize that that is healthy. One thing that I do with clients I work with is, when I start to have them do like vision of what they want or what they want their life to be in couplehood, or even if I'm working with individuals, I say, what have you seen in your life that, yeah, we get that it's a TV show or it's a something or another. And, I tell people, I say, I know I'm old school. I say, take it back.
mm,
Go like Lever the Beaver, Andy Griffith, right? Like, maybe never even heard of those shows. I said, but the reason I like them, even, and I don't know how people may feel about this, but before we found out about what Mr. Bill Cosby was doing, y'all loved A Different World
mm.
and you loved The Cosby Show. We
Yep.
love Steve Urkel. We love Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? And so you look at some of the dynamics of the relationships, like barring what we know about their personal lives,
Mm,
think about what it portrayed. And you can look at those things and something about them or the Moesha show, right? You look at that and you're like, something about the dynamic of that family felt healthy. Or
Mm,
most families felt healthy, like they encouraged the kids to think outside the box and to have a voice and to explore and to write. And so when you think about that question that you were asking is like, how do we get it's like get them to look beyond their experience, right? Even in parenting, not ashamed to say it, I work with adults. I don't work with kids. So when I had my own kids, let's be real, I didn't come from a therapeutic household where there was secure connection. I didn't,
right.
being honest. And so, like I tell people, some people got to go get a price tag called education and they learn it.
Mm,
And so I have that price tag, under my belt, which gave me some info. I had experiences that I saw that told me I wanted something different. So that's
right.
what I looked for something different intentionally. I exposed myself to something different. I asked questions about something. I read books about it. I would look at shows through a different lens. I would look at things through a different lens, right? And then I said, well, even though I work with adults, I'm having kids. I don't know how to function from the place that I say I want. So guess what I had to do? I had to go get parenting classes. Not ashamed to say it. I'm in coaching right now. Not a bad thing, but because it's a certain way I want to show it with my kids and I want to have a secure connection. I don't want, you know, their core beliefs to be that I don't have a voice. What I have to say is not important, right?
Right.
I don't matter. And I
Mm,
tell people that when it comes to core beliefs, they're the things that you think about you, they're the things that you think about other people or the world around you. But here's the saying, and sometimes they can be spoken directly to you. Sometimes they're spoken in the environment that you're in and you pick them up. So
yes.
indirectly. And there are a lot of times you infer a belief about you, others, or the world around you based upon what you are experiencing in your environment. So if I don't want my kids to have a whole lot of negative core beliefs, then I want their environment to be different. And in order for that to, I'm the adult, I got to do something different. That means I got to go out and get some education different than what I experience. So, for the people who want to know, I'm going through PCIT training. Love my coach. She's absolutely amazing. And it's hard to
Mm,
unlearn things that you learned growing up and then to relearn something new and
right.
keep practicing the something new and implementing the something new and having somebody hold you accountable to the something new.
Whew.
That that's a way to do it. I know that was a mouthful, but you asked me, child.
No, and I appreciate that, and I'm glad about it. Like you said, those are the things that we have to do. And
Mhm.
again, like you said, our conversations are for everyone.
Yeah.
But what we need our community to understand is it's okay to get help. It's okay to seek help. It's okay to read a book. It's okay to
Yeah.
attend a training to
Yep.
understand, like you said, how to unlearn what you
Yes.
learned.
Right.
Because there's a time that and we know it with kids, but there's a time that as adults and in growing up, we feel uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but we can't pinpoint what is making us uncomfortable.
Mhm.
But it's because you're fighting against two different worlds, the upbringing that you had, but
Mhm.
to your point, the world that I want, what it is that I desire.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, we are continuously pulled back into our upbringing. Because here's the thing,
Mm.
you go to the military, as we both did. Oh, she thinks she's better than everybody now. No, I desired difference.
Mhm.
Oh, we live in a community now. Oh, they live in a Leave It to Beaver neighborhood. Why? Because it's a nice community and it's not what we grew up in. Oh, she's good. She graduated from college. She has a good job. Oh, here she goes again, thinking she's better than everybody. So, as to your point again, it's what's inferred directly and indirectly about the changes we do desire to make. And unfortunately, I believe that that need and that desire to hold on to a part of our culture keeps us entrapped in that mindset.
Mhm,
And so, because we're staying entrapped in that mindset, the ability to make that change is even harder,
mhm.
and as you said, you have to put in the work. There's no other way around it. You have to go after what it is you desire. When again, you see the relationships on TV, you might see the relationships in church, the
Mhm,
grocery store, and think, that's how I want mine to be. Okay, well, we first got to always remember everything isn't how it appears.
mhm.
There can be some issues underlying within those relationships. However, the fact that that's how you want your relationship to be with your kids, your parents, your spouse, your whatever, then what work are you going to put into it to get to that?
That part.
Because again, like you said, we're operating no matter what it is until we become of age to self think.
Mhm,
We are
mhm.
operating in how we were raised. We are
Right.
operating in everything that we saw in our environment around us.
Yes,
If you
yes.
sit back and you don't like that environment, even
Mm,
still, you don't want to go visit this cousin or that auntie or
mhm,
this sister and that brother because they're still in the same environment. Are
mhm.
you operating outside of that environment now so that
Mhm.
your area of life can change?
Right, right, right. Mm, that's good. So when you think about, like, I know we said, let's talk about, like, what are the like, behaviors or thinking patterns? I think you kinda pointed out some of those a little bit earlier, right? We talked about core beliefs, right? What are some of the things that we are doing or have done in our community? I'm generalizing, yes, um, that have been pathologized or passed down, and we're seeing the impact of it in our lives individually and in our relationships, that then those people go on to have their own kids, right? And then they're passing it down. What are some of the behaviors or thinking patterns that I guess have been passed down in our community that we are talking about, and we open the door to this conversation?
Can I be honest?
Pl Yes, of course. Always.
And this will be met with some disagreement, I'm sure. And it's okay. Um, the welfare system.
Okay, I'm ready.
Because we have not understood and still don't understand financial literacy,
Mm,
um, let me preface that with saying there's absolutely nothing wrong with getting assistance. Absolutely nothing. But it should not be something that we pass down generation to generation to generation on how to do it, how to get it, and how to stay on it. We need to flip that narrative to financial literacy and
I
understanding that this is where we started, but
I
this is where we're going. I'll
Mhm,
be doggone if I stayed in the man's system
mhm,
and I
mhm,
teach my daughter how to do it. Come on, because
mhm,
now what we're doing, this is how I started.
mhm,
Because I didn't have anything, I didn't have any different when I started with you.
mhm,
I want you to see the progression of where I came from, even yourself when I didn't have the McDonald's money.
mhm,
But you tell me, oh, but mommy, the green stuff just fell out your pocket, out your purse. Yeah, it did, but that's for bills. You
mhm,
know, so now I want you to have that understanding that no, this is not what we're doing. Now
mhm,
you want to be financially literate. So now that you can pass that on and pass that on, pass that on.
mhm.
Here's another one, because like you said, we're opening the door to those conversations.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I was molested,
Uh-oh.
as a child.
Mhm.
Now I'm fast
Mm.
because you don't want to accept what happened. So
Mm.
because you didn't accept what happened and you didn't support me,
Mhm.
yeah, now I am going out there with every this person, that person, because I'm still seeking that love and that acceptance
Mm.
for what's happened to me, something that I did not even desire. No
Mhm.
woman desires, no child desires.
Right.
But hearing again the voices,
Mhm.
letting me have a voice to speak on what it was, how I felt, how it hurt me. And here's another one, even if you yelled at me, how that hurt me. Instead of when you're whooping me, telling me it's going to hurt you more than it hurts me.
Mhm.
And you know what? You're probably right in the fact of the swinging of the belt, the switch, or whatever. But your words and your actions have hurt me more than you will ever know. So
Mm.
understanding that part too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to beat it out of you or I'm going to beat it into you. Neither one of them is going to be effective.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and
That's a
so
good those are really good ones.
and that was my opening of the door.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I can I don't know if I can open the door anymore. I mean, if you just camped out right there, like seriously, if you just camped out right there, my goodness, you hit with with the style of discipline. That's a huge one, and the mindset behind it that that's somehow going to change behavior, right? Aggression is going to be like we were just having this conversation the other day, my husband and I, um, around you know aggression with aggression, right? So
Mhm.
we have a we have a little one, we have 2 little ones, right? And our second is a boy. And it took our sissy Stacy to remind me over the Christmas holiday break. She's like, "Oh, sissy, buddy, he's an alpha male." And I had to just sit back in my chair and like all of the reality hit. And
Mm.
I'm like, he is so like kind hearted and just like, oh, I mean, just he just every day, Mom B, Mom B. There's a little joking way, Mom B, I love you. But boy, give him a basketball, give him a football, give him a bat and a baseball, give him a soccer ball. He turns into whoever it is on the court, on the field, on the baseball diamond, and he's directing people on where to go and what to do, you know. And when he wants to do something, he's like, "This is what I wanna do. Nobody's changing my mind. This is it." Or he gets a little aggressive, which is rough play. He has a sister, she doesn't like that. And my husband was like, "Well, he just can't be doing all that and da da da." I say, "Yeah." And let me preface this by saying my husband is not hitting my son. He not being my son. We just talking about, it's like, well, he's like, "Well, what do you do? What do you do to stop that?" And we were just talking about the things to do versus the things not to do. And I said, "Well, what we know we shouldn't do is probably meet aggression with aggression,
Mhm.
right? Because when has that ever worked?
Mm.
Let's be honest. Let's look
It
at the
is.
book. It doesn't, right? But pathology has told us that if we want to, 400 years ago, get somebody into shape, we're going to
Mm.
whip them into shape. We're going to whip them into doing the right thing. And that has passed
Mm.
down for generation, right? Which is let's whoop you into submission or whoop you into behaving a certain way. And when has that worked? People killing each other on the streets, right? They fighting in a school, both people get suspended, right? What so tell me
Mm.
where that kind of behavior or thinking pattern, since we're talking about pathology, being passed down it has really shown itself effective.
Mm. Wow.
I said I wasn't gonna swing the door open, but yeah.
I mean, you just busted wide open now and the mattress,
I
I cracked it. You just went ahead
don't
and
think so.
I mean, but to your point, which I think was so visual, is the beating into submission. And let's be real,
Mhm.
how long did it work for the enslaved?
Mm.
Because then they became resistant to it.
Right.
Then it was no longer, I know why you're doing this. So I'm going to take it. Yes, it hurts, but you'll never hear me cry out.
Mhm.
Because no longer can you beat me into submission of what it is that you want. And so then we get even angrier when we're whipping the kids and they're not crying or they're just taking it
Right.
because now it's not taking effect. Now you mentally changed them. Now you've mentally lost them
Mhm.
already,
Mhm.
mentally and emotionally, because
Mhm.
now you can no longer beat them into submission. But
Right.
to your point, what does that cause them to be? Angry
Yes.
and aggressive.
Yep.
And
Yep.
this is a conversation we'll open the door on another time.
Mhm.
When you think about it, in the African American families, the role reversal of the disciplinarian comes to the mother.
Mhm. Mhm.
So when you are that disciplinarian and that child has mentally checked out and emotionally checked out, now how do I show up in my relationships with Black women?
Uh-oh. Now hold on now. I said don't crack the door open.
Oh, then we just gonna crack it and leave that one cracked for the next conversation.
Busted it wide open. No, y'all hold on. Well, we
So
did say lives and relationships. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
come on now.
Uh-oh. No.
How do I now relate to the Black woman?
Oh, listen, how do I relate to my Black daughter?
Come on.
Or my Black sister?
Or my
Or my
Black
Black
sisters.
coworker?
Because now that pathology,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
systematic functioning of what you've always done to me, I
Mhm.
see that in every Black female that I see now.
Lord have mercy. And that's on both sides of the fence when you think about it, because we may have Black men listen to this too, right? The discipline you've received in your aggression and whoop, and you pass that on. Maybe you're not hitting, but maybe your emotional behavior shows up like that.
Mm,
Same thing for Black women. So this is a very important topic, I believe, like in helping people understand that what you create in your family dynamic is potentially going to impact the development of your children. Yes.
absolutely.
What they marinate in and cook in and the messaging and the behavior and the training that they get, that's being taken into their own lives, and that's impacting them in school, that's
Yes.
impacting them in sports, that's impacting them in how they show up at work when they get their own
Mm,
job, that impacts them in how they're going to relate to other people, peer groups, and in relationships. And guess what?
yes.
Nobody changes anything. It's just going to possibly be perpetuated. And I'm using possibly and but because if you get some support, everybody's not stuck, right?
Absolutely.
Everybody is not stuck. And I can prayerfully say that that is our hope and vision for open door conversations is that while we're opening the door to the conversations and kind of, and I guess you could say, exposing the reality of what's happening in our community at times, but we don't want to just leave you there. Like
Right.
every conversation, we want to try and incorporate things to consider or things to do or how to get help or, things that you can, to do to work on so that we aren't perpetuating dysfunctional family systems.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. And like you said, that is one of our main goals is to open that door, but provide the resources.
Yeah.
Because we know everyone's not able.
Right.
Everyone. And so taking it back to as the pastor says, so we're praying that everyone under the sound of our voice
Right.
takes something from our conversations
Yeah.
and applies it or
Yeah.
out the help or the assistance or the guidance. And I mean, we all know there are tons of books, there are tons of videos There are tons of apps, to
Yes.
help facilitate those things,
Right.
and that is what we definitely want to provide, as you said so eloquently, is those resources. We want to fill your toolbox because it's
Yeah.
never too late. It
Never.
is, it's never too late to say, I'm sorry.
No, yes, never too late to apologize. And here's one: apologize to the kids. It's okay for you to do that.
It's okay.
It's okay for you to realize you fell off the rocker, you lost your cool, you blew your temper, whatever you wanna call it, or you missed the mark in a way, because you know what? Because from the family system, they're also gonna learn how to rectify a situation and
Absolutely.
how to forgive and how
Yes.
to, right, change behavior and how to shift. If they don't see you doing that, right, but you're over there telling them to say, "I'm sorry."
Mm.
It's not
You haven't told them that you're sorry because you're the parent? No, and to your point on that one, I've my daughter and my youngest nephew, I've
mhm,
gotten them to the point to 'cause and you know them both, they're so loving. They remind me of Buddy. They're so loving. So when you do something and you tell them, "I'm sorry," or "I apologize," it's okay," and I tell them, "Stop saying it's okay."
mhm,
And
mhm.
so then it's like, "Well, what am I supposed to say?" "I accept your apology." So because
Yeah,
I can apologize over and over again. And if you keep saying it's okay, guess what? It's gonna keep
that's what
happening
you
over
want.
and over again. So no, I accept your apology. And if you want to add the don't let it happen again, depending on what it is or what it was, you can add that. But let them know I accept your apology, but I don't accept the behavior.
That they did.
Action.
So now you're teaching them, right?
Yes,
You're teaching them something different. Well, I would say, um, this was a good conversation.
absolutely.
This was a good conversation, and, we would like to hear questions, comments. Um, if you'd like more on this particular topic, you guys know what to do. We're like, what, 4 episodes in? There is always an opportunity, to respond to questions, concerns, or content in the episode. And you can email us at opendoorconvo@gmail.com. Or you can follow us on one of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram. We don't have a TikTok.
We don't have a TikTok.
Yeah, we don't have a TikTok. I don't want to do any videos or challenges on TikTok. But thank you guys so much again for tuning in today. And we will see you back here on another episode of Open Door Conversations.
See you next time, everyone.
Have a good one.
Thanks for opening the door and having this conversation with us. As always, you can email us any questions or comments you have about this or other episodes at opendoorconvo@gmail.com. You can listen to all of our episodes on the Ebony Ascent platform at ebonyascent.com, as well as find us on all major podcast platforms. Until next time, remember, our door is always open for conversation.